I'd like to call the meeting to order. For those who care to, please rise for an opening prayer and a salute to our flag. You would bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the time we get to spend together. Thank you for this city. Thank you for blessing it. Allow us to be the people that you want us to be, going in the direction you want us to go. Thank you for these representatives and the citizens of this community. Lead, guide, and direct them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a few announcements. Mr. Wilson, this birthday card was for you. I wasn't here last time. And the city administrator forgot it, so he went ahead and put a $1,000 bill in it. I'll pay for making that mistake. Well, this is not for that.
No, that's for your more recent birthday.
Not for that.
I'm afraid no.
Some sort of a card then.
We'll get him taken care of, yeah. Yes, I understand what it is. I just want to make sure he's feeling okay before he reads it. Mr. Wilson had some surgery here a while back on his shoulder because he had a little trouble over at the walking trail. Jared, he's got a bill for you.
Yeah.
The walking trail, just to let you know. So we'll be taking care of that, I'm sure. But Mr. Wilson fell, popped his shoulder out, had to have some surgery, and he's wearing a long-sleeve shirt tonight because he wanted to show all that black and blue stuff. So I appreciate that, Mr. Wilson. Now that everybody knows, including people out there in TV land, all the things that have happened to you, welcome back.
I appreciate it.
Council, on December 3rd, the annual meeting for Greene County Commissioners will be held at Fire Station Number 1, and will begin at 6 p.m. Dinner will be served. If you are not able to make that, please let Brenda know. Ms. Poole, I know you're not able to make that. It is a good meeting. You can air out all your issues from 911 to health inspections to whatever you want to air out with them at that particular time. The citizens are welcome as well to sit in on that particular meeting and meet not only the Greene County Commissioners but some of the department heads as well. I think Parks or the Roads Department is there and Planning and Planning Department as well. So please plan on attending. If you can't attend, make sure you tell Brenda, Ms. Poole, I've got you. So with that, move on to one other item. I'd like to read a proclamation for Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers and is the fourth leading cause of cancer death in the United States. And whereas in 2012, an estimated 43,030 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 37,660 will die from the disease. Approximately 830 deaths will occur in Missouri in 2012. Whereas when symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is usually too late for the optimistic prognosis, and 74% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of diagnosis, while 94% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first 5 years. Whereas Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and its affiliates in Republic, Missouri support those patients currently battling pancreatic cancer, as well as to those who have lost their lives to disease, and are committed to nothing else than a cure. Whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Republic, Missouri are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Now, therefore, I, Brian C. Buckner, Mayor of the City of Republic, Missouri, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2012 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. Testimony whereof I'm here to set my hand and fix the seal of the City of Republic this 26th day, November 80, 2012. To accept this is Sharice Cameron from the Pancreatic Cancer Society.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking care of that for us and participating and supporting us for the last 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next item on the agenda, I'd like to open a public hearing concerning an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 4.44 acres owned by Phyllis Ruth Bechtel et al. Trust and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission and located at 6935 West US Highway 60 from local commercial C1 to general commercial C2. I'd like to open that now. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Please give us an overview, sir.
As you heard in the title, this will rezone approximately 4.44 acres from local commercial C1 to general commercial C2. The subject property is comprised of two parcels, one parcel owned by the Bechtel et al. Trust, the other being owned by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. The subject property is located at 6935 West US Highway 60 here in Republic, which is the northwest corner of the intersection of Brookline Boulevard and US Highway 60. The subject property is bounded by MoDOT and Burlington Northern right-of-way on all sides. Adjacent land uses include local and general commercial uses, as well as a planned development district. The subject property contains a roadside park and also an existing come-and-go convenience store. Transportation access is from US Highway 60 and also from Brookline Boulevard, also known as State Highway MM. Both of those are under MoDOT jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Anyone wishing to speak for this particular public hearing, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes.
Name is Nathan Street with CEI Engineering.
Okay.
We are the civil engineers for the project for representing Come and Go. We, of course, support this. Just wanted to step before you, see if there were any comments or concerns I could help to address.
Probably not at this point, but if you would stick around, it is, if I'm not mistaken, it is coming back on a first read, and council will ask questions at that time. If you would you please?
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against this particular public hearing, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, public hearing closed. I'd like to open a public hearing concerning an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, appropriating from the revenue of the City of Republic, Missouri expenditures in accordance with the fiscal year 2013 budget of the City of Republic, Missouri, and providing the adjustments thereto. Guy Rice, welcome. Would you give us an overview, please?
I sure will. Every year, we go through the same process, and it's one of the most important things that the council and staff can put together is the budget, because that directs us for the coming year as to what we are allowed to spend and what we are allowed to spend it on. So, under the revised statutes of the Missouri state, we are to put together a budget, and we have done that again for this year. We are looking at, for the 2013 budget, a total of $16,322,280, which does represent a 6% increase over the amended 2012 budget, mainly due to capital projects and capital replacement that has been included in the 2013.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against this particular public hearing, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak for this particular public hearing, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, public hearing closed. I'd like to open it up now to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation closed. Need a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Welcome back, Laura. Give us an overview of the financial report.
You know, I think I'm going to call this report, it's either good news, kind of thing. And And, this one does represent a good news, both for the 1 cent general sales tax or sales tax in general. It has increased, so we are to the positive over where we were last year at this time, just barely, but, you know, a positive is a good thing. And motor fuel tax continues to, increase. We are about 62,000 over what we had budgeted for 2012, with 2 months remaining to go. So that is still coming in at a good pace. So good news report.
Questions from Laura on financial report? Council? Anything at all? Seeing none, need a motion to approve financial report?
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Krischke, anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Derrickson?
No, sir.
Mr. Keeling, future community events, you've whittled this down to about 6 or 7 at one time, you're back up to 16, you're a busy man.
I'm gonna point the finger at Brenda on this, but, anyway, good evening, into November, into December, community events. This Thursday at the at the community center, the senior movie day, 2 p.m., that movie is The Hunger Games, rather a recent movie for us. November 30th, which is Friday, toddler story time at 10:30 a.m. December 3rd, 10th, and 17th, toddler open gym at 10 a.m. Those are Mondays at the Republic Community Center. That's $1 per toddler. December 4th, senior citizen trip to see Yakov live in Branson. December 5th, 12th, and 19th is Messy Munchkins, 10:30 a.m. at the Republic Community Center. December 7th, Friday night, is the 4th annual Reindeer Run 5K. You can sign up now. We are expecting a really good turnout for that, change the route, and so we're really excited about the race. You can sign up all the way from now up until race time down at J.R. Martin Park. So. December 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th, toddler story time at the Republic Community Center. It's 10:30 a.m. December 8th is breakfast with Santa, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. at the Republic Community Center. The cost is $3 per plate, and that includes a picture, pancakes, and sausage, and orange juice.
I didn't see that on the website. Has that been updated?
I don't know. We'll get it on there if it's not on there. Breakfast with Santa on the website. We'll get her on there, sir. We are looking for a Santa currently.
I was promoting this right out.
You just volunteered. You have a volunteer, Jared.
Motion.
Well, there's no motion to that, that's a straight up volunteerism right there.
I didn't say that out loud. We're for Santa. It's gonna be there. December 8th, also at December 8th is Wilson's Creek National Battlefield Luminary Drive-In program out at the battlefield. December 11th is first day for city or Republic candidates to file for office. December 15th is Parents' Night Out from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. We accept ages 4 through 12, and that's held at the Activities Building. December 17th through January 4th, Youth Girls Volleyball registration. That program starts after the new year. December 24th and 25th, Republic City offices will be closed in observance of Christmas. December 26th, 27th, 28th, and 31st, we offer Schools Out program when Republic is not in session. That is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's for ages 6 through 12. December 27th is Senior Movie Day again at 2 p.m. We have not yet decided that movie. And January 1st, Republic City offices will be closed for New Year's Day.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of things going on around the Republic. Hope everybody gets out and participates in one or more of those activities. Board commissions and committees, Board of Adjustments is December 6th, Capital Improvements December 19th, City Council is December 10th and January 14th. Please note that, Council. Our second meeting in December would fall on Christmas Eve, and I do not believe that you want to be here. So December 10th and January 14th, Planning and Zoning is December 17th. On to old business. Need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 12-59.
Motion. Second.
Hold on a second.
It was continued to a date certain, so it's up for.
Okay, so
We're okay.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 2.75 acres owned by Fiber Management LLC and located at 223 West Broad Street from medium-density single-family residential R1M to light industrial M1.
Need a motion to have, final passage of bill number 12-59.
Motion.
Second. Motion is second. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Give us an overview, sir.
The subject property, for which the request to go from R1 to M1, it's located, west of the Burlington Northern Railway, between Walnut Street and Broad. To its south are several single-family residences which front on Broad Street that are within the R1M zoning district. To its east is ABC Mini Storage, which is in the General Commercial District, and to its north is Mark Industries, which is in the Light Industrial M1 District. The subject property currently contains no structures or buildings. The Light Industrial M1 District would permit any use allowable in the C2 District, and therefore also any use allowable in the C1 District. A variety of relatively low intensity and low hazard production and distribution processes. I say relatively, that's relative to other industrial uses. If relative to our C1 or C2, they would be higher intensity and higher hazard uses. High volume service providers with large amounts of commercial truck traffic, agricultural equipment sales and service, and mobile home sales. Transportation access to the subject property will be from South Walnut Avenue. It will not be from Broad Street because they eliminated the portion of that property that would extend down to Broad Street from the rezone application. Walnut Avenue is a local commercial class thoroughfare and is adequate to support commercial and industrial types of traffic. Water and sanitary sewer services are available and adequate to support commercial development of this tract. The city's adopted land use plan from 2005 indicates that this area is appropriately zoned in the future as the Main Street District. The property is also identified in two special areas in the land use plan, the first being Planning Area 7. Planning Area 7 states that this area is appropriate for the expansion of existing industry and potential commercial uses, among other things. It's also located within the Redevelopment Opportunity District Number 1, which describes a general opportunity for commercial expansion. Excerpts of all of those things have been provided for you in this package.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. That's a lot. Well, questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson? Planning and zoning also recommended to the council to approve this ordinance by a vote of 6-1, and their finding of facts form should also be provided to you.
And I don't know if this is going to be a question or not, but two questions that had come up at prior meetings. One regarding some stormwater flooding issues, which would be along West Street, which would be west of the railroad tracks. David wasn't able to make it tonight, David Rocker, Public Works Director, but those are two different stormwater basins, and the development and the properties on the east side of the railroad tracks, which would include the subject property here, really has no impact onto the problems that exist on the west side along West Street. So that was something that we did look into, and, you know, although it all ties together one way or the other, somehow, some way, there's no significant influence on the west side of the street from what happens onto the east side of the railroad tracks, rather. And then the second question, I believe, someone from council had mentioned, was asking for a timeline or some sort of a list of any sort of nuisance complaints that may have been registered against the property. And I know Seth had put that together, and I may not remember it very well, but I think it was less than 6 total over probably a 4 or 5 year period. Gail, do you remember?
Yeah, you're exactly right, and we did share that information with council. And as those instances came up, they were each taken care of by the company and
And then, the question of a fence, and Garrett can maybe add to this about if the fence being installed along the property line between the residence and the vacant property. Of course, that is, required, to have that done, and I know that there was a picture of a fence with some, oh, there it is. I knew I saw it someplace. That, is what would be provided. It would be a wood, look like a privacy or stockade type fence with a certain amount of landscaping. And just so I'm not wrong, Garrett, that's just along the property between the residential
That would
neighbors
be
there?
adjacent to any residential zoning district.
Garrett, how many houses does that affect? Residential locations?
This is adjacent to, immediately adjacent to 3 residences.
Thank you.
There are several more on the south side of Broad as well. Make that 4.
4?
The part that extends down touches another residence, so that wouldn't be next to light industrial zoning, but
Sure, right. That's one more.
close.
Questions, comments, discussion, Mr. Clinkenbeard, go ahead.
Have you seen the email that Seth provided that had components and things? Okay. Has everybody gotten that email that you were talking about, the components and things? Okay.
So if this were to pass tonight, when would they need to have the fence up, and when would they be able to start? Could they pull trailers in there tomorrow conceivably, or?
They would have to install the screen and buffer yard prior to using it for a commercial or industrial purpose. So as long as it stays as it is, there's no need to install the buffer yard. But if they intend to use it soon, they'll need to install the buffer yard and screen prior.
One of the things that, well, what I heard talking to the residents, the recurring issues are the maintenance of the buffer trees, and then the fence is depicted as a, slat wood fence, and with time, that's gonna deteriorate, and then, trash and that kind of stuff there. What kind of recourse would the residents of those houses have, should any of that happen?
Fences in poor condition or in a state of disrepair, I know that's kind of an ambiguous term, but that is one of the enumerated nuisances in our Chapter 425, so it's possible there could be enforcement action from that route. The tree line that's there currently would not, there may be some trees there for which they could get maybe some credit to apply towards the buffer, but this particular type of screen requires at least 3/4 evergreen species. So a lot of those trees it's hard to say what will happen to them if they'll be removed or not, but they may not count towards the screen.
Well, doesn't the buffer doesn't have to be a 25-foot buffer before the fence, isn't that correct?
No, it would be the fence and then 25 feet of space with no structures or buildings, only vegetation.
What if every third tree dies? Do they have to replace that, or,
There is a requirement in the ordinance that requires it to be, yeah.
I'm not just making this up.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sorry, Gary, I don't mean to.
That's okay.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
Chapter 405, Section 890, 405-890, paragraph B is a requirement for maintenance. The owner of the property shall be responsible for maintaining in a neat and orderly manner at all times all required screening materials. Plant materials which die shall be replaced with healthy plant materials of similar variety and meeting the size requirements of this section. That's a pretty specific requirement for maintenance on the screen.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
All of them?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Ms. Wilson? Okay. Now I lost my train of thought. Anyway, okay. You say the fence is on the property line. I thought the fence was set back 25 feet.
No, the ordinance doesn't specifically dictate where the fence goes, but the usual application is fence on the property line and then 25 feet of space. I suppose, if you wanted to, you could do the reverse.
Well, the reason I asked that, I was under the impression you had a 25-foot setback, there's where the fence went. And between the fence and the property line is where the trees and shrubs went. Yes or no? That's kind of what I mean.
On a typical application, though, the residential application, you're 25 feet from either the center of the road or, in a typical residential application, that's where you would be. Because your fence has to be 25 feet, if I'm not mistaken, in our ordinances, has to be 25 feet off the center line. It has to be so much past the right of way.
Between the road and the...
And that's in a residential application.
Right.
In this particular application, I think what Mr. Tyson's saying is that in this typical application, commercial, you would set it on the property line. Because if you set it back, I'm just gonna play the other side, if you set it back, then they're now required to mow not only where their fence was, but in front of their fence for 25 feet. Now their maintenance goes all the way up. You see what I mean?
Right.
By the fence being there, the fence stops the maintenance.
It's not that I care, it's
I
that
understand.
I wanna know
Isn't
which it is.
Doesn't the fence go at the differential between the commercial zoning and the residential? And since they're not doing a piece of their land, the fence is gonna be along the two pieces of their plot rather than against the residents?
I would anticipate that this particular fence would be installed on the property line between fiber management property and the residences to the south. On the property line or within very
So
close
they'll have
proximity
behind that fence, they're gonna have a buffer of that whole
of at least
part that we're
25
not
feet.
rezoning as well, correct? There's a piece of their property that that's not included in this rezone that'll stay as a residential
Yes,
or
right.
whatever. So that area is gonna be behind the fence as well, so I mean, you got a fence, you got that as a buffer as well as trees. The other question, since we're on this fence and buffers, and everybody's worried about it, how many buildings do we have all over town that are commercial that have a fence along the back with a house right there? And is there a lot of situations where we have strip centers or buildings with a fence line right along the back edge of them and in the residential area?
There are some.
It's not like this is a new beast for us.
And the fence, like I said,
Sorry, I didn't
in
follow
theory,
the
you could
question.
put the fence anywhere in that 25 feet you wanted to. But like I said, I would expect them to put it on the property line,
That's
but
right.
they don't have to, I guess.
Just to follow up, in that case, they would need the trees, but they wouldn't necessarily need the shrubs then, right? Since the shrubs would be on their property line and they would serve no purpose.
This particular screen would not require shrubs, only trees.
Okay.
The fence would, there are other types of screens where you can do a fence or shrubs, or some kind of combination, but in this one, it's strictly fence or wall plus trees.
Can I interject something here too on this, on the commercial side of things?
Yeah.
Typically,
Yeah.
this,
Microphone. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not used to being up here, am I? This so-called beefed-up version is specifically for a buffer to segregate two types of uses, your commercial and your residential. Whereas the landscaping, obviously, as you had mentioned too, is more of the separate issue. This specifically is for buffering purposes.
All right.
Thank you.
I wanted to get everything out in the open.
That answer your question, Mr. Wilson?
You bet.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, discussion?
All very good.
Oh, Mr. Funkenberry, go ahead. I didn't make up, my eyes usually go from left to right. Usually you're last. I'm sorry. I'll go first next time. Go ahead, sir.
You're fine. I wanted to kind of tell council how I got to my conclusion. I find that this is one of the important things that we have as a job, as a council, and especially when someone, brings the zoning forward. A lot of them may be pretty straightforward if the city staff and, committee, puts it for us and says go for it. Whenever you have somebody that contests it, our job is to represent those residents and to make sure that what we're looking at, is good for both sides. It's obvious from our staff and from planning and zoning that the lot conforms to everything, there's no reason to say no. And that side's pretty straightforward. When you look at the residents and what they've brought forward, a lot of what they want us to look at is things that have happened over many years. And I decided to do quite a bit of homework. I looked at the stuff that the residents brought to us. I also took the time to call the management at Fiber Management and talk to them. I said, one of our concerns is that, we're gonna follow through. I mean, are you just rezoning this and gonna do whatever, or do you actually have plans in place? Have you gone out and got architect designs? Do you have bids? And it's more like one of the reasons they put this little presentation together, because I told them that I'd like to see it, because they said that they had gone out and got the landscaping design and things like that, and gone to a lot of trouble to make it look nice. Also talked to the management. They've only owned this particular business for a couple of years now, and talked to Gail and Seth to see what all of the issues were with residents during this 2-year period of time, because it's not fair to take the current business and ownership and apply all the sins of the previous owners and management to a current business and then project it. I think it was last time that one of the residents that spoke mentioned a Dr. Phil quote about, past performance is indicative of what you can see in the future, which I thoroughly believe. The thing is that when you look at what's happened in the last couple of years, there's been maybe 2 or 3 incidents, and every single one of them they've taken care of immediately. In the city, Seth has said that they've, taken care of it and done it in good order. I can't say so much for when I drove out there and looked at it for the resident that's complaining that still has things that probably are code violations now. But that's not on our agendas of what we're looking at as far as Fiber Management. And they've taken care of each thing. I also thought, well, if it's repetitive things, is it always the same things that they never mow when they go out there and we have to tell them once a month, like some of the neighbors in my subdivision call me on? Do we have to go out there every single time about the same item? And it's not. There's 2 or 3 different things that they've had, and they've taken care of it. So as far as the residents' concerns that, hey, this company may not follow through, or they're gonna do something that's gonna damage my property value, or those types of things, I feel from the, the artist renderings, the things that they'd like to do with it, they're trying to be a good neighbor. They've taken a plot of land out so that there's no possibility of having a drive going through to the side street. They've done everything that they can, to be a good business. I don't see any reason why we should turn them down based on all the previous times that this business has attempted zoning, because that's not fair to the current operation. The only final thing that I would say is we tabled this last time because we need a supermajority. I don't feel it's right for the business or for any side, because we're handicapped here with one down and needing 6 votes. That I wanted to finish the discussion here, but that might be something that we want to consider before we make a vote too, is that we have all 8 members here. And I'd like to at least see from the council members that are here today, do you all plan on being here at the next meeting? I know Shane should be, he's sick today, was planning on being here. But that's something that I feel we should consider pretty heavily too, is not handicapping this based on needing a supermajority.
Additional questions, comments, discussion from council? Anything at all?
Any opinions on the table option? Just as a discussion?
I lean towards that being a reasonable recommendation. I mean, since we need 6 and we have 7 people here, that seems reasonable to request that, and another 2 weeks waiting isn't gonna kill anything. If you made the motion, I would second.
Unless someone else doesn't show up, then we're tabling it indefinitely.
No one is allowed to be sick.
In December, that's gonna happen.
If it were my business, and I'm not trying to side on one side or the other, but they're the one at the handicap on this, needing 6 to be positive for it. I just think that it's fair. The residents have pushed it to be that way, that, even if we had to wait 3 meetings, I think that's the right thing to do, is to have a full council to weigh in. I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to do discussion tonight, so that we, you know, if we have all these diagrams and everything here, I wanted to have a chance to at least do that. But I'll put a motion on the table to table it.
I'll second it.
Oh, motion, a second, table. You wanna put a time frame on that?
Till the next meeting.
Or which time full council here? Because you'll table it again if we don't have full council.
Now, what happens
Can
next time?
we
That's what I
almost
want to
always
know.
have full council here, though. I mean,
We haven't the last,
Right.
Ron,
we-
can we make a tabled motion to where we just table it until full council is here? Or do we,
No,
we can't really do that, because
no.
you have to put it on the agenda ahead of time.
table it to a day certain, which would be December 10th, and then if you want a motion to table again, you just bring it up and see
So
what.
do I need to make another motion, since it's already been motioned and seconded?
No, it is to the next meeting, which is
said to the next
December
meeting.
10th.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second, to table to next meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, opposed, no. Motion carries. Item is tabled to December 10th because of this majority. Okay. Fair enough.
That's all right.
Fair enough. I do not, never mind, I got it. Motion to have the first reading of bill number 12-60.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let's try that again. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? That motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 4.44 acres owned by Phyllis Ruth Bechtel et al. Trust and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission located at 6935 West US Highway 60 from local commercial C1 to general commercial C2.
Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. In addition to the information I provided you earlier before the public hearing, the land use plan adopted in 2005 designates this property as being appropriate for local commercial zoning. This is also contained within a development opportunity district. This is Development Opportunity District Number 2, which generally describes potential for commercial and mixed-use developments at all four corners of this intersection. Municipal utilities are not currently serving this particular site. They are available. They will have to be extended to this site by coming under US Highway 60, potentially even under Brookline Boulevard. But they are available and they are adequately sized to service general commercial development and use on this site. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this recently and voted 5-0 to recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson? If there's specific questions that Mr. Tyson cannot answer, Mr. Nathan Street is here representing Come and Go. So, Mr. Wilson.
I just have one question. Is all of Stanford Park going away, or is some of it going to be let, the park?
The site plans that we've seen don't eliminate the entirety of the park property, but I would imagine that the park as we know it will not be there anymore. Whether a portion of it remains as a park, I don't know, but it's the entire property that the park sits on now is under a sales agreement between MoDOT and Come and Go. So if the entire thing gets sold to Come and Go, I would say all bets are off on the roadside park.
Give him the sign on that.
Yeah, and that is something, the sign issue that's out there, there's an historical sign, and we're still researching to find out exactly what will happen with that sign. At one point, maybe a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, when all of this first came about, MoDOT had sent an email out asking if anybody had an interest in that sign, and of course, we said yes, along with Springfield, and never heard back from anybody again on the sign. And some people have said it takes an act of Congress that move a sign like that, and they're forced to incorporate it into the site plan. we're not exactly sure, but that's something we're going to investigate and find out what would happen to that.
I actually asked Mr. Street that question today, and the plan is for the site, or for the sign to remain in place. That's
There you
correct.
go.
There's your answer, thank you,
There you
Mr.
go.
Street.
For our own knowledge and edification, what history occurred at that location?
Do you know?
I do not.
The title is History of Springfield? That's the title of the sign, is
I think
History of
it relates
Springfield.
to something with the Trail of Tears, and I'm not,
Yeah, something like
I did go by there once and I did read it, but I
Someone
it
get
obviously
the sign
didn't
there
stick
to
with
how long
me,
it
but
say.
I think it may be the Trail of Tears,
That-
stop along
That
the way.
sign's gonna have more visitors tomorrow from this group. Did that answer your question, Mr. Wilson? Mr. Cascaron, did I get your question answered?
Yes, yes, the most.
Okay, other questions, Mr. Blankenbeard, go ahead.
Do we, what are the planned uses for this? Do we know?
The application indicates, a new come-and-go facility equipped with, fueling stations for commercial trucks. So it'll be a rebuild. The plan is to demo the existing and rebuild a new come-and-go.
Would that include cleanup of like the tanks that are in the ground, or are they gonna still try to reuse those in the new layout?
I don't think they're reusing new tanks.
So they'll either clean up or whatever they're required to do on the old ones?
The state will watch that,
Yeah.
trust me, the Superfund will watch that. Additional questions, comments, discussion, Mr. Harder?
Well, back to the sign, is the sign historical or is the property historical?
You're asking me, I've never read it, so, I have a feeling you're gonna be out there
We'll
tomorrow.
find out when they start building a building on.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you know, if the property itself is historical, that's another story. That's, I'm sure they.
Is that germane, though, to a rezoning issue, what we
That-
asked?
Pretty much.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
Potentially, it could be.
Potentially.
I don't know that that the property has any historical designation.
Yeah, that's.
Just as a, here, I never say anything, I'm twice up here tonight.
Like yourself up.
Just a little bit of a refresher, Come and Go was looking at another location across the street several years ago, and that particular piece of property was not obviously closed on. They couldn't strike a deal, so to speak. But at that point in time, we had talked to people that had talked about that being a historical sign, not a historical location.
Thank you. To answer your question, Mr. Harder?
Might be something we wanna investigate before we.
You're on first read, so we have until
Yeah,
December
it might
10th.
be something we, to investigate, because if Come and Go was in good faith buys the property and find out, well, you can't do anything with it.
I'm sure some of
I'm
their
sure
due
they've done
diligence
their
has been
homework.
done, yeah,
I would hope so.
Nathan's giving me the head nod back there, so I'm sure that they've,
They've covered their bases, and, it's a viable, developable piece.
Okay.
additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Tyson or Mr. Street?
And as always, despite what they, put on the application, we always encourage council to, give attention to the full range of potential uses once it's rezoned to general commercial. I think we've provided you with that entire list in your packet tonight.
Anything else, council, on this particular one? Mr. Hardy, your point's well taken. Mr. Christian, you wrote that down. We'll do some due diligence, but as it looks right now, Mr. Street gives us a heads up that it's obviously a viable, buildable piece of property. So this is a first read. If there's other questions, comments, discussion between now and the next meeting, hold those questions to the next meeting. If there's actually a technical question, please give it to Mr. Tyson on this. Next item on the agenda, I'd like to have a motion for the first reading of bill number 12-61.
Motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Bill Number 1131, appropriating from the revenue of the City of Republic, Missouri, expenditures in accordance with the fiscal year 2012 budget of the City of Republic, Missouri, and providing for adjustments thereto.
Thank you. Laura, Conrice, give us the overview, please.
Okay, well, at the end of the year is basically when we try to come along and clean up the budget for the current year, to look at any projects that would have been included, any additional capital or anything that has been expended, that we didn't budget for. And, I am happy to say that city staff has done a wonderful job this year because we only have a $54,000 adjustment that needs to be made to the, out of the $15 million budget. So that is not bad, and it's in the streets department. It's actually for 2 items. There were additional, street resurfacing projects that were done in the tune of about $35,000 due to the additional monies that were received from the motor fuel tax. We took advantage of that because we gained about $39,000 for the year and spent almost all of it on additional resurfacing. And then there was a dump truck that was acquired at the first of the year that we did lease financing for, and we needed to appropriate some money, $19,000 for those lease payments. So, that being said, this $54,000 increase to the 2012 budget will bring the total 2012 budget to $15,345,020.
Laura, for reference, please give the council, if we have this, I'm not sure we have this, what's been our, the $54,000 this year, prior years? It was big dollars amount.
Well, now see, just from my experience last year, it was because we had bond proceeds.
Yeah, we did refinance it.
So I think that all in all, because it's kind of been a tendency to do the budget amendments kind of throughout the year, and I think it amounted to about $3.8 million for the budget. So.
Questions, comments, discussion for Laura?
When David's not here.
What's that?
Because when David's not here.
I'm sure there's a reason, Mr. Hunter.
He thought Shane would grow him.
Any pertinent additional questions, comments, discussion? This is a first read, so if you have questions or comments between now and the next meeting, if there's technical questions, please contact Laura. I'd like to go to the next item on the agenda. Need a motion to have the first reading of bill number 12-62.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri appropriating from the revenue of the City of Republic, Missouri expenditures in accordance with the fiscal 2013 budget of the City of Republic, Missouri and providing for adjustments thereto.
Laura,
Okay.
give us the overview.
Well, I have the public hearing overview, and I will say that the document has been available for public inspection in Brenda's office for the last week or so, and I don't know that anybody has come in. It was available for citizens to come in, look at, give opinions on or comments on, and so we will leave it there until the next read. So we are proposing a $16,322,280 budget for 2013. As we discussed a little bit, 6% increase over the amended 2012, primarily due to we had some big ticket capital items, mainly 2 fire trucks that in the 2013 budget that drove that number. But we are able to fund utility, which includes water and sewer services, which amounts to 33% of the budget. Emergency services, which encompasses police, fire, E911, and EMA, which is 20%. That's some kind of comment on that.
Well, you're in the plans, aren't you? The Parks Director on steroids here.
Yeah. Speaking of Parks and Rec, it's 16% of the budget. Streets and stormwater, 13%. The remaining 18% of the budget is for support, administrative services, information technology, planning, and municipal court. And included in all of this is the capital outlay and debt service. We did encompass, the 1% pay raise as these sheets that we handed out at the budget meeting. Looked like the top vote getter was the 1%. So we did, or were able to encompass that at this time in the budget. And, I'm happy to say that even after encompassing those changes, we still were able to come in revenues over expenditures of almost $50,000 for all the budget.
Very good. And after that last deal, Jared, your percent went from 16 to 10. Just to let you know, sir.
And the extra went to IT to block websites.
Yeah.
Questions, comments for Laura on this particular item?
Could have been.
Mr. Casagrande, please.
Besides the 1% pay increase, were there any other changes from what we saw the other night at the fire station?
Not major changes, there were just some internal changes that were made, so nothing that was brought up for discussion, but more rearrangement of monies.
Okay, so it's essentially the same budget we saw.
It is.
In addition, or
Yes.
with the addition of the 1%
Yes.
pay increase.
You are correct, sir. Thank you. You're correct. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? This is first read. If there are questions or specific technical questions on this particular item, please contact Laura. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
On to other business, resolution number 12-R-53, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Gallagher Benefit Services for insurance broker and consultant services agreement for 2013. Need a motion? Motion. Second. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Krischke will give us the overview. Jacob Salinas is also here to answer some specific questions. I'll let Jim do the rest.
This is different than what we have done in years past, and Jacob will walk up here and he can better answer the questions or correct me when I say something wrong, but in years past, it's always been the practice, we go out for bids this time of the year for health insurance and general liability and what have you, but in this particular case, it's health insurance. And the fees that the broker or the agents will receive are built into the rates. And more and more as time goes by and you get larger, more professional firms involved in the brokerage and the, representation for the city, you have options to be able to get a rate from your insurance companies that are net of commissions. And typically commissions on health insurance run about 2%. On the dental insurance, it's actually higher at about 10% of premiums. And that amounts to over $23,000 in total that we would pay out in commissions. And we were able to back those out of the rates and in turn negotiate a single, fee for the entire year for, in this case, for Gallagher and their services. So you're seeing for the first time a resolution to approve those brokerage fees in the amount of $18,000. And then the second item down past this will be the renewal for the health insurance for next year, and that dollar amount would be less the commission. So all in all, it is a savings of probably close to $6,000. And that is a trend in the industry. It seems to be what most of the larger cities are doing. It does make sense for us. I will say it if Jacob will not say it, because they've been very upfront and honest. In fact, they were the ones that thought it was a better option and better deal for the city. Of course, it's a business decision on their part, and when they provide insurance services to the city, it opens up a market for them, and there's potential for them to gain other business through our employees, and that is, allows them to potentially get additional commissions and for other products that may or may not come about. So just to be perfectly honest and upfront, it's a great savings to the city, it's a business decision for them, and that's how it played out.
And they would have that anyway if we went the other way.
We would have had the option to just say, then last year we actually had this option, but we were so late in the year that we just left it as is and we went with commissions within the rate. So
Correct.
but we had more time this year to work something out, and that's why you see it this evening.
Yeah, if I may add to Jim's comments, my name is Jacob Salinas. I'm with Gallagher Benefit Services out of Springfield, and has been a pleasure to serve the city over the past year. When we took over as your broker of record last winter, as Jim mentioned, those rates were already set. We decided to move it forward with commissions being built into those rates. More and more of our business, especially dealing with larger entities like the City of Republic on the public entity side as well as on the private side, we are moving more to a fee-based structure. We have always been a 100% transparent company. Every year we disclose what the commissions are anyways, even if they are built into the rates. But in this instance, if you see in the exhibit, in Exhibit A, it lists out the services that we provide to you on a daily basis and the ongoing support to the city, especially with the advent of healthcare reform and all the complexities that will bring to you in 2014. Legislative support and compliance will be a big aspect of what we do for the city going forward. So with that said, we felt like in the best interest of the city and in the spirit of partnership, we actually discounted our fees for 2013. So I'll add that.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments, discussion, council? Mr. Clinkenbeard, go ahead, sir.
Just on the fee negotiation thing, is that something fairly new in the industry then? I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, I would say in the last several years, we've seen a migration from a commission-based schedule to more of a fee-based schedule. The services included in the agreement are the same exact services you would get if we were being paid a commission. And with larger public entities, for example, I represent the city of Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's on a fee-based structure. And it's just easier to, here's your fee, here's what's going to be billed on a monthly basis. It's an invoice that comes to the city, and again, it's 100% transparent. So, but yes, that is a trend happening throughout the marketplace.
There's not a regulation or where the regulation changes on, because like
No.
real estate, for instance, there's set things where you can't negotiate. Okay, I only want to pay you 4% or whatever.
No, it just, based on how we're structured, that's something that we do quite frequently, especially.
So do you tell the insurance company, quote their rate minus all commissions, and then I charge them direct for my services, is how it's taken care of?
That's how it's taken.
Okay, so it isn't a pass-through like a normal commission would be?
Correct. It's a direct invoice from Gallagher Benefits to the City of Republic.
Answer your question,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Clinkenbeard?
Yeah, great. We appreciate you doing that.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries, thank you. Well, the next item on the agenda is related as well. Resolution number 12-R-54, resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Cigna for employee health insurance for 2013. Would like to have a motion on that.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Krischke, give us the overview, sir.
Once again, I noticed Jake didn't leave, so this
I'll
is
stay
probably
up
gonna
here.
require a little more of his explanation, but, not a whole lot different. We touched on the differences in rates, but, a few things that happened this year. The bad news, and included in your packet, was, a loss ratio report, showing that we did not have the greatest of years, and it happens. We've been very fortunate, and luckily, over the last few years, they have, lower claims, and that's helped a great deal in keeping our rates down. This particular year, it hadn't been so good. So that was a little bit of a struggle to try to figure out a way to keep our premiums from increasing at, what initially came in at almost 12% increase, about 11.4%, I believe is what it was exactly. If we kept the identical, apples to apples, medical insurance, health insurance plan that we had this year for next year. So we started looking at alternatives and other ways that we may be able to offer insurance coverage to the employees and keep the cost to the cities and to those employees that use the extended coverage. Some have employees and spouse coverage, some have employees and their children, others have full family. We have, I think, 27 people that actually utilize the extended coverage, and that's 100% out of the pocket of the employee. Those actual rates had gone up as well, so we had to try to figure out a way to make all of this work into the budget and try to get the best possible product. So there was a product that was very, very similar to the PPO that we have this year. It's very much the same. Out-of-pocket expenditures would be exactly the same. There was a change in the actual deductible portion by $500. Out-of-pocket didn't change, but they just reshifted the two amounts. And then there was a change in the co-payments for your normal, ordinary doctor visits. By choosing that particular PPO, we were able to keep our rates increased to almost a little less than 2% for next year, which was big, and it actually lowered the extended coverage down for families. And then last year, we explored a health savings accounts program. Once again, we were very late in the game last year, and we didn't want to rush something. We wanted to make sure we had enough time to explain what a health savings account is, how it works with the employees. We've had 2 or 3 meetings, I know at least 2, maybe even
Minimum
3,
2, yeah.
with staff, letting them know what the insurance coverages will be, and oh, by the way, we're going to introduce this health savings account program, explain how it would work. It's totally an option for those that feel that's a great option for them. Allows them to put away money pre-tax. There's a number of other benefits that would go along with that particular program, but it's not for everybody, so clearly we kept the PPO in place and then offered the health savings as an alternative. I may get long-winded here on the health savings account side of things, since there was a reduction in the premium every month to the city that we would pay, and there would be a difference between that and what you would pay for the PPO coverage. That gap or that difference would be the amount that, to keep things fair to all of the employees, that difference would be deposited into an employee's health savings account for them, so that each employee would be receiving the same dollar amount in benefits. So keep things equal for everyone, but give them an option on which plan they would prefer to take.
If I just may add to kind of echo Jim's comments again, yes, it was a rough year, to say the least. 2 large claimants that we know of within the population, one that still exists today, one that's no longer on the plan, was the driver behind this year's utilization. The actual renewal projection that came from the underwriter initially was roughly 23%. We were able to negotiate that down to around that 12% range with Cigna, and with some plan modifications, as Jim has highlighted for you, we've been able to get that down on the traditional PPO plan. The discussion around the HSA actually came from this meeting last year, if you remember. We discussed that. We put a plan in place, working with Jim and his staff, to educate employees over the last 12 months on what an HSA is, and in conjunction with a high-deductible health plan. And as Jim mentioned as well, this will be an option for 2013. Our actuarial modeling has projected somewhere about 20% migration, possibly. That'd be on the high end for 2013. It's one of those you got to try it to like it type of plans, and we have, again, recent trends have seen success in folks enrolling in that type of plan, having the funds build up in the health savings account, and those funds roll over year to year, and they are tax deferred. Deposits go in. For an individual, you can deposit up to $3,250 in 2013 into your health savings account. For a family, it's $6,450. And so the idea behind that is to build up a little nest egg to pay for that deductible, and then money's left over at the end of the year, just roll over, and again, with deposits, you can build that account up. That's a trend in the healthcare marketplace. Many public entities are going in that direction, and to ease into it by providing it as an option is a good first step.
Fair enough. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Krishke or Mr. Salinas?
For my own, for my own knowledge, I noticed that both Cigna and Coventry are part of the Mercy network.
Correct.
Is there any difference in cost containment if employees go to the Cox network instead of Mercy?
That's a good question. Historically, Cox has been a little bit more expensive in terms of the network. Don't know why that is, just if I look at billed charges over time, Cox seems to be about 6 to 8% higher typically. That's case by case though. Of a group of your size, looking at a Cox network solution, we could potentially see some savings there. City Republic historically has been St. John's aligned, and that's kind of the comfort level of where employees, where their comfort level is. There's good carriers on both sides. And as you know, on the St. John side, their marketplace is shrinking in terms of the number of carriers that are going to be offered going forward. Coventry was bought by Aetna for $7 billion. That sale will be effective in July of next year. So when we look at options in the future, there will be less options on the St. John side. So that could be a future thing to look at in terms of options going forward. Hopefully that answers your question.
Good, thank you. I've got a few. Probably for Jim. We cover the employees, correct?
Yes.
And then all the additional lines there, the employee covers. If they add family, whatever, the different things. The other thing is, are these totals to where, for instance, if the employee has a spouse and says 722, they just pay the difference from the 397 to the 722. They don't pay the 722.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. I will just say that I've had an HSA plan now for about a year and a half, and I was the one that pushed you guys to look at it last year and didn't have enough time, but I've been incredibly happy with it. The key is education to the employees, because it'll be faithful to put money away ahead of time, build up that account for when you need it. And the savings is nice. Now, a question, I guess this would be for you.
Yes, sir.
On the $70 or so difference between the two that the city is gonna deposit into their health savings account, does that go towards their, well, this year was $3,050, next year was it $3,200 or whatever it might be?
Correct.
Does it go towards that, even though the employee itself,
Correct.
or herself is
If on a single, and again, the contribution limits are set by the IRS.
Sure.
It is $3,250 for 2013. It's a combination of employee and employer funds.
So they're considering it that the city's putting it in there on behalf of.
Right. And then whatever that difference would be, could be what the employee puts into the
So
account.
the only question, mine's like $1,500. I see that being $3,000, building up your deductible, they can barely do it in one year term. But I think those answer my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, on the, money you put away, if you don't use that at the end of the year, do you lose it?
No, sir. In a health savings account arrangement, it stays in and it rolls over year to year.
And you gain interest on it.
You gain interest on that money. Correct.
My wife is do that. She doesn't use it.
She may be on what's called a flexible spending account, which is a use it or lose it rule.
FSA.
That's an FSA. We're talking HSA here tonight.
HSA is much better.
Yeah.
Additional questions, comments, discussion, all good questions. Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank
Any
you.
abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session under RSMO 610.021.3. Motion. Second. A motion and second. Before we get there, I want to make sure that everybody understands there's no further open session action going to be discussed by council, and as soon as the agenda for executive session is over, the meeting will be adjourned. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrelson?
Aye.
Councilmember Poole?
Aye.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Clayton?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Take a 5-minute recess. Come right back.